The Galactic Combat Academy floated somewhere between the Andromeda Galaxy and a really bad decision. It was the kind of place where the elite warriors of the universe came to prove they were better than everyone else, which meant it was also the kind of place where egos went to get shattered like cheap pottery at a discount store. Commander Throvik stood at the front of Training Hall 7. All four of his muscular Krellian arms crossed in what could only be described as quadruple disappointment. His purple exoskeleton gleamed under the fluorescent lighting, and his mandibles clicked in that special way that said he was about to ruin someone's day. That someone was Jake Rivera. Jake was the first human ever admitted to the academy, which sounded impressive until you realized he'd only gotten in because the admissions committee thought his species classification form was a joke. Humans, the galaxy's equivalent of that one kid who showed up to advanced calculus having barely passed basic arithmetic. Cadet Rivera. Throvik's voice rumbled like a landslide with a grudge. Do you understand why you are here? Jake leaned back in his seat, boots kicked up on the desk in front of him. To learn stuff? Make friends? Get one of those cool graduation certificates I can hang in my bathroom? Several alien cadets made sounds that might have been laughter if their species had invented the concept. Throvik's mandibles clicked faster. You are here because your species begged the council to give humans a chance at legitimate combat training. You are here because someone, somewhere, thought you primitives might have potential. He leaned forward, two of his eyes narrowing while the other two stayed wide. Creepy. I am here to prove them wrong. Cool, Jake said, nodding. Love the energy. Very motivational speaker vibes. Throvik's third arm twitched toward his plasma rifle before he controlled himself. Professional development seminars had really emphasized the whole, vaporizing students thing. Tomorrow, Throvik announced, turning to address the full class. You will face the dual-wielding assessment. The room went silent. Someone in the back, a gelatinous species whose name Jake couldn't pronounce, made a sound like a garbage disposal choking on silverware. The passage rate, Throvik continued, his voice dripping with satisfaction, is 2%. Across all species. In the 300-year history of this academy, only 17 beings have successfully completed this test. He turned back to Jake. Humans have a coordination index of 4.2. The minimum recommended index for dual-wielding is 12.7. Jake raised his hand. What? Is that out of 10 or? Get out of my classroom. The next morning, Jake shuffled into the combat arena with a coffee that smelled like burnt rubber and broken dreams. The Academy's beverage synthesizer had 3 settings: disappointment, regret, and technically not poison. He'd gone with disappointment. Throvik was already there, naturally, probably having slept standing up like some kind of overachieving lamp. Around him stood the other cadets who'd been selected for the assessment. This was going to be fun. Ah, the human graces us with his presence, Throvik said. How wonderful. I was worried you might miss your own humiliation. Wouldn't dream of it, Jake said, taking a long sip of his terrible coffee. I marked it on my calendar and everything. Tuesday, get roasted by a purple crab. Throvik's mandibles did that clicking thing again. Jake was starting to think it was his superpower annoying aliens into making that noise. Allow me to explain why dual-wielding is impossible for your species, Throvik began, pulling up a holographic display that looked like a brain had a baby with a geometry textbook. Combat with 2 weapons requires simultaneous hemispheric coordination, independent proprioceptive processing, and neural bandwidth that your primitive cortex simply does not possess. Jake nodded like he understood any of those words. Your brain, Throvik continued, zooming in on what was apparently a human brain scan, can barely walk and talk at the same time. Dual-wielding requires processing 17 distinct spatial calculations per second, maintaining separate threat assessments for each weapon, and coordinating strikes that are you even listening. Jake had been watching a maintenance drone sweep the ceiling. Oh yeah, totally. Neural band camp. Got it. To Jake's left stood Rax, a 6-limbed Chithari who looked like a praying mantis had hit the gym way too hard. Rax was currently taking notes on a datapad with 3 of his arms, while the other 3 fidgeted nervously. The instructor is correct, Rax whispered. Rax. I have been preparing for this assessment for 6 lunar cycles and my success probability is still only 14%. On Jake's right was Glenna, a crystalline whose entire body looked like someone had carved a person out of diamond and given it anxiety. Light refracted through her geometric form as she processed data. I have calculated 17,412 possible strike combinations. The optimal solution requires, Glenna buddy, Jake interrupted. Maybe that's your problem right there. In front of them hovered Pip, a telepathic blob about the size of a basketball. Pip was purple, gelatinous, and had a mental voice like a truck driver who'd seen too much. This is garbage. Pip's thoughts projected into everyone's heads. Complete garbage. I've got telekinesis, and I still can't make this work. That is because, Throvik said, glaring at Pip, telekinesis does not grant you the muscle memory or spatial awareness required for proper blade work. It is a shortcut that leads nowhere. So you're saying it's hard? Jake asked. The arena went quiet. Even the maintenance drone stopped sweeping. Throvik turned slowly, all four arms spreading wide in a gesture that screamed, "Are you kidding me right now?" Hard? Hard. Cadet Rivera, this assessment has broken decorated warriors. I have seen champions weep. The dual-wielding protocol is not hard. It is fundamentally impossible for 98% of sapient beings in the known universe. Jake shrugged. Right. But hard though. Throvik's face did something complicated. You will fail, he said simply. Your species lacks the basic neurological architecture. You are here as a courtesy, nothing more. When you fail, and you will fail, perhaps the Council will finally stop wasting resources on humanity's delusions of adequacy. Sick burn, Jake said. Did you practice that in the mirror? Out. Jake sat in his quarters that evening, staring at the two practice swords Throvik had issued him. They were called Nexus blades, adaptive weight, perfect balance, glowed a cool blue color that definitely wasn't compensation for anything. His roommate, a fungal colony named Sporch, who communicated through spore clouds, drifted nearby. The translation matrix rendered his thoughts as a concerned elderly aunt. Dear, are you sure you want to go through with this? The commander seems quite certain you'll fail. Yeah. But here's the thing, Jake said, picking up both swords. They felt good, natural even. Throvik doesn't know about Earth. I'm fairly certain he has extensive files on your planet. Nah, I mean he doesn't get Earth. Jake stood up, holding a sword in each hand. He thinks humans can't dual-wield because our brains aren't wired for it. But dude, what does he think we've been doing our entire lives? Sporch's spores turned a confused yellow. Elaborate. Okay. So when I was 7, right? I learned to play video games. You know what that means? 2 joysticks. Left hand controls movement, right hand controls camera and actions. Different tasks, same time, 0 thinking required. Jake started moving the swords in slow circles. Then I learned guitar. Left hand does fret positions, right hand does strumming patterns. Completely different rhythms. I was 12. That seems... Concurrent motor function processing. Exactly. And nobody thought it was weird. Jake was getting excited now, swinging the blades in wider arcs. I learned to drive a manual transmission car while changing the radio and eating a burger. I can type on a keyboard that's 10 fingers doing different things in complex sequences. I can pat my head and rub my stomach in circles. My mom can cook dinner while having a phone conversation and watching TV. Sporch's spores turned an alarmed orange. Your species does this voluntarily? For fun, Sporch. For entertainment. Jake stopped, both swords pointed at the ceiling. Humans juggle. Like actual juggling. Throwing multiple objects in the air and catching them in sequence. Some psychos do it with knives. Or chainsaws. Running chainsaws? Sporch. That's horrifying. There's a sport called drumming, where you hit different surfaces with sticks in complex polyrhythms, while keeping separate time signatures with your feet. We teach it to children. Children! Sporch! The spore cloud was now a deeply concerned purple. Perhaps your species has underlying neurological abnormalities that, we're not abnormal, we're just easily bored. Jake started doing practice swings, alternating hands. You know what the human brain's favorite activity is? Doing 2 things badly at the same time. We text while walking into polls. We eat while driving. We have full conversations while our hands are doing completely unrelated tasks. The commander said you lack neural bandwidth. The commander thinks neural bandwidth is a limited resource. Human brains don't work like that. We don't calculate 17,000 strike combinations because that's stupid. We just do whatever seems right and fix it if it breaks. Jake was really getting into it now, the swords moving in figure 8s. You know what Throvik's real problem is? He's thinking about dual-wielding like it's some complex equation. But humans? We've been dual-wielding since we figured out we could hold a rock in one hand and a stick in the other. Sporch drifted backward as one of Jake's practice swings came a little too close. And, you're saying your entire civilization accidentally trained for this? Not even accidentally, just naturally. Our whole deal is using tools with both hands. Knife and fork, sword and shield, dual pistols, nunchucks, ski poles, crutches, video game controllers. We type on keyboards with all 10 fingers doing different letters at the same time. Sporch, at the same time. This is deeply disturbing information. It gets better. We have sports where you dribble a ball with one hand while blocking people with the other. We have instruments where each hand plays completely different melodies that somehow sound good together. We have sign language where both hands make different shapes to create meaning. Jake was spinning now, both blades moving independently. Throvik thinks humans can't dual-wield because we're primitive. But we're not primitive. We're just really, really good at ignoring the fact that things are supposed to be hard. You're going to hurt yourself. Probably. But that's never stopped us before. The combat arena the next morning looked like someone had designed an obstacle course specifically to cause psychological damage. Hovering platforms, rotating barriers, combat drones that tracked movement with the cold, calculating efficiency of a tax auditor, and in the center of it all, Commander Throvik stood with all four arms crossed, looking like he was already composing the failure reports in his head. The viewing gallery was packed. Apparently word had spread that a human was attempting the dual-wielding assessment, and the entire academy had shown up to watch the inevitable disaster. Jake could see students from at least 40 different species up there, many of them holding what looked suspiciously like bags of popcorn, or whatever passed for popcorn when you had a methane-based digestive system. Cadet Rax, Throvik announced, "You're first." Rax clicked forward on his 6 legs, his exoskeleton practically vibrating with nervous energy. He'd been preparing for this for months. Jake had seen him practicing in the training rooms at 3 in the morning, running through sequences with the dedication of someone who'd convinced themselves that effort could overcome biology. 2 practice blades materialized in Rax's upper primary grippers. The Chitheri stood there for a moment, perfectly still, and Jake could practically see the calculations running behind his compound eyes. "Begin," Throvik said. Rax launched forward with the kind of speed that made Jake feel like humanity had really gotten the short end of the evolutionary stick. The first combat drone emerged from behind a barrier, weapons tracking. Rax's left blade came up to parry while his right blade struck, except his right blade went the same direction as his left blade. "No. No. No," Rax muttered, all 6 of his legs doing a complicated shuffle as he tried to reset. "Independent action. Separate targeting. I know this." The second drone appeared. Rax attempted a crossbody strike with both blades moving in opposite directions. Instead, he somehow managed to tangle his upper left arm with his middle right arm, the blades clattering together in a sound that made everyone watching wince. "Recalculating," Rax said, his voice pitching higher. "Okay, so if I adjust the grip angle by 12 degrees and shift my weight distribution to account for..." A third drone shot him with a practice bolt that registered as a kill shot. Rax froze. "You're overthinking it, cadet," Throvik said, and he actually sounded sympathetic. "Your species has excellent reflexes, but your neural processing defaults to unified action. Both arms want to do the same task. It's not a failure of effort. It's biology." Rax slowly untangled himself, mandibles drooping in dejection. As he passed Jake on the way out, he whispered, 6 lunar cycles of preparation. 6. Better luck next time, buddy," Jake offered. "There is no next time. This is a once-per-lifetime assessment." "Oh, well, that's a terrible policy." Next up was Glenna. The crystalline stepped onto the course, and light refracted through her geometric form in complex patterns that probably meant she was processing data at speeds that would make a supercomputer jealous. The blades materialized in her hands well, her hand-equivalent crystalline appendages, and she stood there, perfectly motionless. "Cadet Glenna," Throvik prompted. "You may begin." "Calculating optimal approach vector," Glenna said, her voice like wind chimes having an existential crisis. "First drone will emerge at bearing 47 degrees. Optimal strike pattern requires left blade at 62-degree angle of attack, while right blade maintains defensive position at..." "Sometime today, cadet." Glenna moved. It was beautiful, actually. Perfectly calculated, geometrically precise. Her left blade traced an arc that would have made mathematicians weep. Her right blade moved into a textbook defensive position. The problem was they moved in sequence. Left blade strike, complete. Right blade defense, complete. It was like watching someone try to play a piano concerto 1 note at a time. The first drone didn't even bother shooting her. It just kind of hovered there, waiting for her to do both things at once. "Recalculating," Glenna said. "Simultaneous action protocols engaging. Left blade strike vector combined with right blade defensive matrix equals..." She tried to move both blades at once. Every angle was perfect. Every trajectory was optimal. And her entire crystalline body locked up like a computer that just tried to divide by 0. "Error," she said flatly. "Paradox detected. Cannot resolve conflicting optimal solutions." "System halt," Throvik sighed and waved her off. The fundamental flaw of the crystalline approach. You can calculate perfection, but you cannot execute chaos. Glenna drifted off the course, still muttering calculations under her breath. Then it was Pip's turn. The telepathic blob floated onto the course with the energy of someone who'd already decided this was garbage but was going to give it a shot anyway. The blades materialized, hovering in the air next to Pip's gelatinous form, held aloft by telekinetic force. "This is stupid," Pip's mental voice projected to everyone. "I've got literal mind powers and I need to swing sharp metal around like a caveman." "Your opinion is noted," Throvik said dryly. "Begin." Pip launched forward, the blades spinning around in what looked like a really aggressive interpretive dance. The first drone appeared, and Pip's response was immediate. Both blades shot forward in a telekinetically powered thrust. Same direction, same target, same timing. "Come on." Pip's mental voice was pure frustration. "Independent action. You stupid." The blob tried again. This time the left blade went left, and the right blade went also left. Just from a different angle. It was like watching someone try to pat their head and rub their stomach if their head and stomach were in the same location. "This is what I'm talking about," Pip projected aggressively. "My brain is trying to think about two things at once, and it feels like someone's microwaving my consciousness." A drone shot Pip with a practice bolt. The blob turned red with irritation. "That's the neural bandwidth limitation," Throvik explained, not unkindly. "Your telekinesis runs through the same processing channels as your spatial awareness. You can control multiple objects, but not with independent tactical purpose. The moment combat stress engages, your mind defaults to unified targeting." "I hate this. I hate everything about this," Pip muttered while floating off the course, the blades clattering to the ready ground. 3 attempts, 3 different species. 3 failures that each illustrated exactly why Throvik had said this was impossible. The viewing gallery was buzzing now, a cacophony of alien languages all discussing the failures they'd just witnessed. Jake could hear the tone, even if he couldn't understand the words. This was the impossible test. This was where biology became destiny. "Cadet Rivera." Throvik's voice cut through the noise. All 4 of his eyes fixed on Jake, and there was something in his expression that looked almost pitying. "Your turn." Jake stood up, rolling his shoulders. Around him, the other cadets who'd failed watched with a mixture of sympathy and morbid curiosity. The viewing gallery fell silent. This was it. The moment where humanity either proved itself or became a galactic punchline. Jake cracked his knuckles and walked onto the course. "You know what, Commander?" Jake said, picking up both blades. They felt good in his hands, balanced, right. "What, Cadet? I really hope you've got good insurance on these drones." Jake stepped onto the course, a practice blade in each hand, and immediately started doing spins. Not tactical spins, not calculated rotational movements designed to confuse enemy targeting systems. Just full-body ice skater at the Olympics. "Look at me, I'm fancy spins." "Cadet Rivera, what are you doing?" Throvik's voice carried the distinct tone of someone whose headache was getting a headache. "Warming up," Jake called back, now doing figure 8s with both blades while continuing to spin. "Getting a feel for the weight distribution. You know, normal stuff. This is not a performance. This is a combat assessment." "1. Right. Super serious." Jake stopped spinning but kept the blades moving in lazy circles, one clockwise, one counterclockwise. "Quick question though, are there style points?" "No." "Shame. I had this whole routine planned." In the viewing gallery, someone laughed. Throvik's mandibles clicked, so hard, it sounded like castanets. "Begin when ready," Throvik said through what was clearly gritted teeth. Or whatever Krellians gritted. Jake rolled his neck, bounced on his toes twice, and grinned. "Born ready, Commander." The first drone emerged from behind a barrier, weapons already tracking. It was sleek, efficient, designed by military engineers who understood that combat was about precision and calculated response times. Jake threw his left sword at it. Just straight up yeeted it like he was skipping stones across a lake. The drone, programmed for thousands of combat scenarios, had exactly 0 protocols for idiot throws sword at face. It tried to dodge, recalculate, and track the actual threat simultaneously. In that half-second of confusion, Jake had already closed the distance, caught the tumbling sword with his right hand, his now free left hand grabbing the drone and using it as a shield, as the second drone appeared and fired. "What are you doing?" Throvik roared. "Improvising!" Jake released the first drone, caught his sword again with his left hand. How did he even catch it? It was spinning end over end and launched himself at the second drone, with both blades swinging in completely different arcs. The second drone tried to track both incoming strikes. Its targeting system kept jumping between threats. Left blade coming in high. Right blade coming in low. No. Wait. They switched. No. Jake hit it with both swords at the same time from completely different angles, and the drone sparked and went dead. 2 down, Jake announced cheerfully. In the viewing gallery, the crowd was no longer silent. Alien voices chattered in confusion and disbelief. Rax leaned forward, his compound eyes wide. How is he tracking both blades independently while in motion? He's not tracking them, Glenna said, her crystalline form flickering with confused calculations. There's no computational model. He's just doing it. The third and fourth drones emerged simultaneously. Flanking maneuver, crossfire pattern. Standard protocol. Impossible to defend against with 2 swords, because you couldn't be in 2 places at once. Jake's response was to cartwheel sideways, while holding both swords, while slashing at both drones mid-cartwheel. That's not a combat technique. Throvik was now standing, all 4 arms gesturing wildly. It is now. Jake landed, both drones falling in pieces behind him. We calling that 3 and 4? This is absurd, Pip's mental voice projected. He's not following any tactical framework. He's not calculating angles or threat assessments. He's just vibing. Humans don't plan. Sporch's spores whispered from the gallery where he'd come to watch. They decide, and then figure out if it was a good idea later. The 5th drone came in fast, close quarters protocol, designed to overwhelm before the opponent could establish defensive posture. Jake blocked it with his right sword while his left hand just let go of its sword entirely, letting it drop, then caught it behind his back with the same hand. Did he just? Someone in the crowd started. He did. Someone else confirmed. The drone's sensors went haywire trying to track where the threat was. Blade in right hand. Blade in left hand. Wait, no, blade in left hand. Wait, yes. Blade in left hand. But how Jake stabbed it with both swords. 5. We're flying now, Commander. Throvik had moved from standing to pacing, all 4 arms running through his scales in what looked like a stress response. This shouldn't be possible. The neural bandwidth required to track both blades, while executing independent tactical decisions, while maintaining spatial awareness of multiple threats. Is he overthinking this? Jake called out between strikes as drones 6 and 7 appeared. Feels like he's overthinking this. Jake's strategy, if it could be called a strategy, seemed to be, do whatever feels cool in the moment and hope physics agrees. He was spinning, slashing, occasionally throwing a sword just to catch it with the other hand, switching his grip mid-strike for no apparent reason. The drones couldn't predict him because there was nothing to predict. Their AI kept trying to calculate his next move based on his previous moves, but there was no pattern. It was like trying to predict the lottery by analyzing the previous winning numbers. Drone 8 came in with a grappling protocol. Jake's response was to use both swords like ski poles, vaulting over it entirely, slashing down with both blades as he passed overhead. What sport is that from? Throvik demanded. All of them, Jake yelled back. 9 and 10 appeared together, synchronized assault pattern, designed to force the opponent into a defensive position where dual-wielding became a liability rather than an asset. Jake did something that would later be analyzed in tactical databases as the stupidest thing that somehow worked. He started spinning both swords in his hands, not swinging them, just rotating them like helicopter blades. Then he ran directly at both drones. The spinning swords deflected the practice bolts through what could generously be called luck, and could accurately be called, that should not have worked even a little bit. Jake reached the drones and, still spinning the swords, shoulder-checked one while kicking the other. Both drones went down. That's 10, Jake said, breathing hard now but grinning. What's next? Throvik looked at his datapad, looked at Jake, looked back at the datapad. The final challenge. 3 opponents. Simultaneous engagement. Disarm all 3 without taking a hit. 3 combat drones emerged, forming a triangle around Jake. These were the advanced models, the ones with adaptive learning protocols. They'd been watching his entire performance. They'd analyzed his chaos. The viewing gallery went dead silent. Jake looked at each drone, then at his swords, then back at the drones. You know what? I've been wanting to try something. Rivera, just execute the protocol. I call this one the helicopter. What happened next would be debated in tactical seminars for years. Jake started spinning. Not just the swords this time, but his entire body. He became a horizontal tornado of terrible decisions and spinning metal. The swords extended his reach, creating a rotating perimeter of absolutely do not enter this space. The drones tried to adapt, tried to find an opening, tried to calculate when the blades would be in position for them to strike safely. But Jake wasn't following a pattern. He was just spinning and occasionally changing direction. The drone's adaptive learning protocols kept trying to predict the unpredictable. Then Jake stopped spinning and, in one fluid motion that looked like it had been choreographed by someone having a seizure, disarmed all 3 drones with a move that involved throwing one sword, catching it behind his back, using the momentum to swing the other sword in a full circle, and somehow ending with both sword tips pressed against the central processors of all 3 drones simultaneously. It should not have worked. It violated several laws of physics. It definitely violated common sense. But the drone's sensors registered simultaneous disarmament. The arena went absolutely silent. Jake stood there, breathing hard, both swords still extended, looking like he couldn't quite believe that had worked either. Then the scoreboard lit up. Assessment complete. Score: 94.7, highest score in Academy history. The silence broke. The viewing gallery exploded in noise. Cheers, shocked exclamations, angry disputes, the whole range of sapient emotional responses. Pip's mental voice cut through it all. That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen, and I've seen someone try to negotiate with a supernova. Rax was clicking his mandibles together in stunned disbelief. He just did 17 things that should have gotten him killed. None of them killed him. I don't understand. Glenna's form was flickering rapidly, trying to calculate what she'd just witnessed. There is no mathematical model for that performance. It exists outside of probability. And Throvik just stood there, all 4 arms hanging limply at his sides, staring at Jake like he'd just watched gravity reverse itself. Jake dropped both swords, stumbled slightly, and gave a weak thumbs up. So, pass? For a long moment, nobody moved. The viewing gallery was frozen in a tableau of disbelief. The combat drones lay, scattered across the arena floor like metallic casualties of a particularly aggressive interpretive dance performance. And Throvik just stood there, all 4 arms still hanging at his sides, mandibles slightly open in what might have been shock or possibly a stroke. Jake bent over, hands on his knees, breathing like he'd just run a marathon. Which, to be fair, he kind of had. A marathon, made of bad decisions and physics violations. "Commander," Jake wheezed. "You good? You're doing that thing where you're not moving and it's kind of freaking me out." Throvik's mandibles snapped shut. Then open. Then shut again. Finally he spoke, and his voice had the quality of someone whose entire worldview had just been drop-kicked into a black hole. "How? How? What? How?" Throvik's voice climbed several octaves. "How did you train for this? What regimen did you follow? What enhancement protocols? What neural augmentation surgery? What did you do?" Jake straightened up, still catching his breath. Nothing. Nothing. I mean, I didn't study for this or anything. I just picked up the swords and did what felt natural." Jake shrugged. Was I supposed to prepare? The assessment notification didn't mention homework. One of Throvik's eyes twitched. It was the bottom left one. "Natural. You're telling me that performance was natural for you? I mean, yeah? It's just dual-wielding, right? Both hands doing different stuff. Humans do that all the time." "No," Throvik said. And he was walking toward Jake. Now, all 4 arms starting to gesture emphatically. "No, you do not understand. What you just did requires neural processing power that your species classification lists as impossible. The spatial awareness alone should have overwhelmed your cerebral cortex. The independent weapon tracking should have caused proprioceptive collapse. You should have tied yourself in knots like cadet Rax. But I didn't," Jake pointed out helpfully. "I can see that." In the viewing gallery, students were starting to filter down to the arena floor, drawn by morbid curiosity and the need to confirm that what they'd witnessed had actually happened. Rax was practically vibrating with confusion. Glenna's crystalline form was still flickering through calculations. Pip had turned a color that the translation matrix unhelpfully rendered as confused screaming. Sports drifted down, his spore cloud a concerned yellow-green. "Commander, perhaps the human simply has a natural aptitude." "There is no natural aptitude for this." Throvik rounded on the fungal colony. "The dual-wielding assessment is designed to be at the absolute peak of possible coordinated combat ability. It is not something you just do without preparation." "Okay. But counterpoint," Jake interjected. "I literally just did." Throvik turned back to Jake, and something dangerous was brewing behind his eyes. "What is your background, cadet?" "Before the academy. What training did you receive?" High school? Couple years of community college before I dropped out. Worked at a warehouse for a bit. Oh, and I was pretty good at Call of Duty." "What is Call of Duty?" "Video game. You run around shooting people." "Well, Not real people. Digital people. It's fun. Throvik's mandibles started clicking again, that rapid-fire sound that meant he was either thinking very hard or having an aneurysm. Video games. You trained for the most difficult combat assessment in the known galaxy with children's entertainment software. I mean, I also did some other stuff. Played guitar for a band that never went anywhere. Learned to juggle at a Renaissance fair. Normal human stuff. Normal, human, stuff. Throvik repeated the words like he was testing them for poison. Then, moving with sudden purpose, he pulled up his datapad and started frantically typing. Computer, display human historical combat records. A holographic display materialized in the center of the arena. Images flickered past. Medieval knights with sword and shield. Pirates with dual pistols. Samurai with katana and wakizashi. Modern soldiers with rifle and sidearm. Sword and shield. Throvik muttered. Dual pistols. Fork and knife. Dual-wielding has been a fundamental part of human civilization for millennia. He scrolled faster. Typing on keyboards 10 independent digits performing complex sequential tasks. Musical instruments requiring polyrhythmic coordination. Sports involving simultaneous ball control and defensive positioning. The crowd was gathering closer now, watching the display with growing horror. Here. Throvik pulled up a video that made several aliens recoil. This is what humans call juggling. They throw multiple objects in the air and catch them in sequence. For entertainment. Oh, that's a good one, Jake said. Watching the juggler work. That guy's got like 5 balls going. I could only ever do 3 before I hit myself in the face. You hit yourself in the face and continued trying? Well, yeah. How else was I gonna get better? Throvik pulled up another video. This is what humans call drumming. Different limbs maintaining separate rhythms simultaneously. My buddy Rick could do that thing where each limb plays a different time signature, Jake offered. It sounded terrible, but it was really impressive. Another video. Texting while walking. Driving while eating, someone in the crowd added, having pulled up their own human database. Video games with dual-stick controls, Rax said quietly, his compound eyes wide with dawning horror. Sign language where both hands make independent shapes. Glenna added, her calculations spiraling into chaos. The videos kept coming. Humans patting their heads while rubbing their stomachs. Humans playing piano with both hands, performing different melodies. Humans doing that thing where they write with one hand while drawing with the other. Humans performing surgery with tools in both hands. Humans juggling chainsaws. Wait, go back. Pips, mental voice cut through the chaos. Did that say juggling chainsaws? Oh yeah, Jake said. Running chainsaws too. There's competitions and everything. Running chainsaws. I mean, it's not as dangerous as it looks. Usually. Throvik had stopped scrolling. He was just staring at the display, all 4 arms hanging limply again. When he spoke, his voice was barely a whisper. Your entire species has been accidentally training for dual-wielding since you discovered you had 2 hands. I mean, I wouldn't say accidentally, Jake said. More like we just never thought about it being hard. 2 hands, 2 tools. Seems pretty straightforward. It's not straightforward. Throvik's voice climbed again. It requires neural architecture that took most species millions of years of directed evolution to develop. The Krellians achieved 4-limb independence through genetic engineering. The Chithari still can't fully coordinate more than 2 limbs in combat. And humans just do it. For fun? We also do it for not fun, Jake pointed out. Like, pretty much every job involves using both hands for different tasks. Construction, cooking, medicine, art, even just putting on pants requires independent bilateral coordination. Putting on pants. Throvik seemed to be having trouble with the concept. Sporch drifted forward, his spores a sympathetic purple. Commander, perhaps this is simply a case of humans evolving in a particularly dangerous environment that required. Earth is a Class 4 death world, Throvik interrupted. I know. I've read the reports. But that doesn't explain this. He gestured at the arena, at the scattered drones, at Jake, standing there like he hadn't just rewritten the tactical databases. This level of coordination should require conscious effort, training, something. It does require conscious effort, Jake said. When we're learning it. Like, when I first tried to play guitar, I had to really focus on making my hands do different things. But after a while, it just becomes automatic. muscle memory or whatever. How long did it take you to achieve this muscle memory? For guitar? I don't know. Like 3 months before I could play basic songs without thinking about it. The arena went silent again. 3 months. Jake had achieved in 3 months what most species considered biologically impossible. Rax slowly raised one of his 6 limbs. Commander, I must ask, if this is normal for humans, if they can all achieve this level of coordination. He trailed off, not wanting to finish the thought. Throvik finished it for him. Then we have fundamentally misunderstood humanity's combat potential. He turned to Jake. Cadet Rivera, can all humans do what you just did? Jake scratched his head, thinking. I mean, not everyone would be good at the sword fighting specifically. You need some practice for that. But the dual-wielding part? The using both hands independently for different tasks thing? He shrugged. Yeah, pretty much any human could learn that. We teach it to kids. You teach it to children. Yeah, like, you ever see a kid on a bicycle? Both hands doing different things, steering, braking, sometimes signaling. Both feet doing different things, pedaling, balancing, sometimes braking depending on the bike. And they're usually also watching traffic and talking to their friends and maybe eating ice cream. Kids are actually pretty good at multitasking. We just get worse at it when we overthink stuff. Pip's mental voice was quiet, almost awed. They're a species of natural-born dual-wielders, and they didn't even know it. Oh, we knew we could use both hands, Jake said. We just didn't know that was special. I mean, you guys all have hands, right? Or hand equivalents? Don't you just use them? We use them for the same tasks, Glenna explained, her voice distant. Bilateral symmetry supporting unified action. Both hands lifting the same object. Both hands performing the same motion. Independent task assignment creates processing conflicts. Huh, Jake said. Weird. Throvik was pulling up more files now, muttering to himself. Combat records show humans using sword and shield configurations dating back thousands of years. Dual-wielding pistols, rifles, even mixed weapon types. The Galactic Council dismissed it as primitive tactics, but it wasn't primitive, it was natural to them. He looked up, all 4 eyes focusing on Jake with an intensity that made him take a step back. Do you understand what this means, cadet? That I passed the test? That you should have failed. Throvik gestured wildly at the scoreboard, still displaying Jake's 94.7 score. Your species classification lists you as having minimal combat potential. The Council approved human admission to the Academy as a diplomatic gesture. You were supposed to be a curiosity, a token representative, not a tactical revelation. So, I exceeded expectations? Jake tried. You shattered them. Throvik was pacing now, all 4 arms gesturing as he spiraled into what looked like an academic crisis. The entire combat doctrine of the Galactic Defense Forces is based on the assumption that dual-wielding is a specialist skill requiring years of training and genetic predisposition. But if humans can just do it, if they've been doing it casually for their entire history, then, he stopped, turned slowly, pulled up another file. Oh no, he whispered. What? Several people asked at once. Throvik's voice was hollow. According to Earth cultural records, there are approximately 8 billion humans on their homeworld, and humans have been spreading across their solar system for the past century. He looked up. If even a fraction of them can achieve what Cadet Rivera just demonstrated, the implications hung in the air like a bomb waiting to go off. We're gonna need a bigger academy, Pip's mental voice said into the silence. Jake raised his hand. Quick question, am I still getting that graduation certificate? Because I really do want to hang it in my bathroom. Throvik stared at him. Then, moving like a man in a dream, he started typing on his datapad. I'm updating the Academy manual. As of today, there is a new regulation. What regulation? Rax asked. Throvik's mandibles clicked one final time as he saved the file. Humans are no longer allowed to take courses labeled as impossible, he looked at Jake. Because apparently, for your species, impossible is just Tuesday. Jake grinned. Does that mean I can try the quantum physics course next? Get out of my arena! But as Jake walked away, covered in sweat and still holding both practice swords like trophies, the viewing gallery erupted in cheers. Not mocking cheers this time. Genuine appreciation for watching someone do something that shouldn't have been possible. Sports drifted alongside Jake as they left. You realize you've just changed everything, right? The tactical databases, the combat doctrines, the entire understanding of human capabilities? Cool, Jake said. Does that mean I get extra credit? Behind them, Throvik stood alone in the arena, surrounded by broken drones and shattered assumptions. And for the first time in his 300-year career, he wondered if maybe the Academy should add a new course. Introduction to Human Coordination, What the hell is wrong with these people? It would be the most popular class in Academy history.